Hello, everyone. How are you? I hope you have had a very good day today. This is Aliza Deani, host in the podcast The Art of Beyond Algorithm. I call it TABA. And so I have some noise here. Let's stop it here. So this is the brand new podcast that I have started after the other podcast that I have for last 3 years. I've interviewed 150 people, almost professional, most of them in the field of AI and data science. In that podcast in Persian, of course, I've interviewed my guests in terms of their career path because it has always been my passion to understand how people makes decisions, etc., in their career and life. So, and a lot of people came to me and asked me, "Oh, how about the English version? How about the English conversation interviews, etc." Also, I have always, as a technologist and someone in the field of AI and data science, I have always been passionate about meta level and soft skills. So I made the decision finally. I had made the decision like 1 year ago, but I kicked off the podcast finally here to have with you guys in each episode, weekly or bi-weekly. I will have a guest in my podcast, and we are going to go to the through the career of the guests, and we will discuss different locations, different times guest has made decisions related to meta level skills and soft skills. I hope you will enjoy the conversation. Please follow us, support us, subscribe to the YouTube channel of the podcast, and I promise you will enjoy that. For this episode, I have a very special guest, friend of mine, Dr. Manfredi Miraula. That's very difficult for me. So you might say, how it is, he's your best friend, but you don't know the family, the last name. Sorry, that's my problem. I have problem with names. But Manfredi is my one of my best friends actually. I've had the opportunity to work with him a few years ago, and I know him very interesting and nice person. He has a very interesting career, so he accepted to be my guest in this episode. We are going to have a lot of interesting conversation. Thank you very much, Manfredi, for accepting my invitation. Please introduce yourself shortly, then I will start the conversation with
Ciao Diresa, thanks. I was starting in Italian.
you.
Thanks for the introduction. Yes, my surname is actually problematic both for English speaking, but also for Italian. Actually, my first name and my last name are uh, oftentimes confused because my first name is considered a first name where I come from, which is Sicily, the very south of Italy. But in the rest of Italy, it's considered a surname. So actually, when I introduce myself and say my name is Manfredi Miraula, uh, they always confuse me for being a woman or like that. My first name is actually Miraula, and my first name is my last name. Anyway, so yes, thanks for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. Um, very short introduction. I'm Italian, of course. I met you quite a few years back when I was living in Ireland, as you are still, I guess.
Yeah.
And thanks for calling me doctor. I guess this is for my PhD uh, that I got in 2017. And since then, I decided to move out of academia and join a tech company, and the rest is history. But I guess this is one of the interesting parts we are going to discuss about during this podcast.
Yeah, thank you very much. I always ask my guests to introduce them shortly and quickly, but it seems like apparently I scared them, so they keep it quickly, quietly short. But don't worry, we'll go through all the details and we'll understand uh, what my guest has done. Anyway, so if you see I don't perform well in some stage of the podcast, that's because the first episode of my new podcast, but I try my best to minimize the good, very good. Yes, it was 2020, I guess. We met in a company, in a startup that we work together.
Yes,
But
yes,
let's first start from where you are at the moment. I mean, what do you do at the moment? What's your job? Which area, which field of AI and data science do you work?
yes. So I've steered my career since the beginning, actually, towards more and more technically complex type of work. So I started as a, I would say, data analyst, doing reports and insight. At that time, it was called business analyst or insight analyst, depending on the function and the department you were working with. Then after that, I moved into more and more data science role. But ultimately, I do enjoy complex things, and I actually enjoy quite a bit writing code and software engineering. So, in the last 3 years, 3 years and a half, I moved towards first data engineering, but now with the advent of AI, it's more and more apparent that the role that I can do and perform is very intertwined between software development, data engineering, what is called now analytics engineering, which is if you ask me, one is a catch-all phrase that means everything and nothing at the same time, depending on what type of company you're working for. So essentially, I'm a jack of all trades. I do a bunch of things. I think that the best quality or the best words to describe what I do is trying to connect the dots between technology and business, meaning that I have a strong, I wouldn't say technical background in the sense of computer science, but I have a hard background, like hard science. So these allow me to rationalize things quite well. And I'm very passionate about technology, coding, software development, AI. So I kind of put myself in a bridging position between business problems, product development, and actually integrating and implementing solutions to solve these problems and these business problems, right? So right now I'm working as a freelance, as a contractor, uh, and specifically as a senior AI engineer. Uh, and again, this kind of is a new buzzword and a catch-all phrase because for one project, I was fully dedicated data engineer. So my role was just focusing on data pipeline to serve AI use case. But in another project, I'm doing a little bit of everything with software development, connecting with the cloud engineering, and then of course implementing AI product. So I would say that my career has developed in a way that I was able to look at every step of what you would call a data science project, like from the basic of understanding the data and understanding how the business would like to look at the data to understand business problem and to generate business value. And this is classically the role of a data analyst. Then moving more into modeling and how to leverage machine learning and data to automatize problem solving, right? And now, in the last part of my career, I'm moving more into technical integration, product development, and actually implementing solutions from the ground up to solve business problems. But still, I use on a daily basis what I learned as a data analyst, as a data scientist. Most importantly, the communication skills and trying to understand the business and how to communicate with people that are not necessarily technical or don't necessarily reason with an analytical mindset. I think this is a superpower for everyone working in this field.
Very interesting. Very interesting kind of career path you have had. Since I know part of your career, I could understand exactly what you are talking about. For sure, we are going to go through all of these ups and downs through your career because I know there would be a lot of interesting things. But I have a question for you here. You mean if someone doesn't have that much kind of expertise across different areas in the data and AI career, I mean, as a data analyst, scientist, and so on and so forth, it is not a good option to go for freelancing or contractor jobs?
No, no, no. So this is an interesting topic, which I explore myself a couple of times, and I always when this topic comes up, I always come back to a very what I think is a very powerful image, which is the T, the letter T.
Yeah.
So the letter T can exemplify how you can look at a career path, right? So the T has the horizontal line and then the vertical line, and uh, you could imagine a career path that is kind of horizontal or vertical. Horizontal means that you have a lot of breadth in your career. So maybe you have explored different venues of, uh, I don't know, in our case, technical roles. And then maybe you can develop in a vertical line. So you really go deep into a specific topic or a specific technology. I always tried to use the approach of having a lot of breadth because, and this is my personal opinion, in our world, especially in this, yes, that's
This is what you mean,
yes,
T-shaped
yes,
learning
yes,
model. But
exactly.
interestingly, I'm jumping into your story. But interestingly, I came across some other interesting variation of that, like the V model also seems interesting. But yeah, that's the T-shaped model.
Yes, exactly. So it's classically the model that identify a generalist versus a specialist. I My career has developed as a generalist, but multiple times I deep dive into specific topic of interest. Like for the past 3 years, in fact, I specifically wanted to work on generative AI, and so in this sense, I'm becoming a specialist, focusing specifically on generative AI projects. But to come back to your question, initial question, is it advantages or not if someone wants to go freelancing? I think it depends. As everything in life, you can find really good opportunity as a freelancer if you are a specialist, uh, and you can get paid extremely well if you're a specialist. For instance, if you are a Databricks expert, if you have a lot of certification in Databricks, you can get really good job and really good opportunities just because you are an expert in one specific technological stack. But the other side of the medal, as we would say in Italy, is that maybe the number of opportunities that you have in the job market at times are not that much. So if we can think of these as a trade exchange, right? It's always a matter of demand versus opportunity that can fulfill this demand. And so if you're a specialist, maybe there is very low demand for your skill set, but when there is, then you can get a lot of good opportunities and like high paying job. In the other hand, in my case, uh, I have many opportunities, so I can put myself in the shoes of many different roles. Uh, but maybe I don't get paid uh, crazy amount of money, and it's fun because at least for me, uh, what always interested me and kind of carried on my professional development was curiosity. So for me, staying in the same path or in the same uh, niche for too many months or too many years, it doesn't cut it. I get bored and I get frustrated. So I actually enjoy moving across different roles, across different technology stack, and that's how I built my career. I think there is opportunity in both cases, right? It's ultimately it's also very true that people buy people. So ultimately, if you're able to sell your value correctly, you will find opportunities of that. I'm sure.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
So what I learned from you is then there is no kind of one size fit all solution in terms of freelancing. Interestingly, you mentioned if you are a specialist in something, perhaps you can get a lot of money in just one single contract, but it is much more difficult to find opportunities. And there should be the situations you don't have projects or you should live with your pocket, etc. But to
And,
guarantee that you expand it, is that
and
do you yeah, go ahead.
Yes, and also depending on what type of specialist you are, these also defines the type of company that you can approach. Because, for instance, going back to Databricks, Databricks is kind of an expensive technology to use. So likely you're gonna target medium-sized or enterprise companies, right? Instead, if you are able to do Databricks, but also open source technologies or other type of technologies that are not that expensive, then you have a lot of breadth in terms of what type of companies you can work for and also what type of project. Because having a data engineering project in a very small company like a startup or a scale up is completely different from having the same type of project in an enterprise, right? In an enterprise, you might be the data engineer working in a squad with six other people that where each one of you have a specific set of deliverables within your field. But then if you move back to a smaller company, even if you're hired as a data engineer, then you have to also do some data science, data analytics, some software development, cloud dev. So that's actually what I like, being able to do like having a multifaceted role. For me, it's much better, it's much preferred because it keeps me interested. It all depends ultimately on our character and how we relate. Also, with the size of the company, you have different politics in play, different organizational challenges. Uh, yeah, I think it defines quite a lot of what type of project and opportunity you can get.
Yeah, it's interesting. I understand what you're saying. Okay, so I would like to stay a little bit more on the freelancing part
Hmm.
because that could be a challenging question understanding. Perhaps lots of audiences would be interested to understand what is the word of freelancing in the data science and AI career, because we understand the freelancing jobs in a lot of like content development, graphic, but it's kind of not that much popular. So we'll discuss that for sure. So for the last question related to what you said, my understanding is my question, my curiosity is how to know which approach is better for me. Should I be stay focused on something like really sharp on a specific field of AI and data science, or should I be generalist? I mean, is it something up to your personality? Is it something up to you? That's up to what do you think?
Hmm, that's an interesting question. So I think definitely how our personal preferences should come into play, right? Uh, for some people, it's completely too much to explore multiple things. For example, there are maybe type of person that they want to be extremely good at one thing before moving to the next, right? I've always been nothing but that. Like I start something, then I move already into the next thing. Uh, so I think that our character kind of defines where we land, uh, and also the way that we
How,
approach learning, right?
let me pause you here. I have a critical question. How
Yeah,
did you
yeah.
learn it about yourself? I mean, it was by mistake, it was by
A
pain.
lot of mistakes, a lot of pain, for sure.
So
It
we
took
should be
me years
open
to.
to, so we should be open to mistakes and pains to understand, because it seems like it is impossible to know that straight
uh,
away.
Absolutely, and I think that's like if you an extremely good point. Like now I'm almost 10 years in my professional careers after 3 years in my PhD and 5 years of university. Like if you want to consider my adult life, uh, I have gained a lot of experience professionally and for myself. Like personally, I've evolved, right? And so if you ask me this question, what you would have done if you were able to go back? Would you have done again the same university degree, the same PhD, etc.? I would say absolutely not, because now I know that I have a lot of passion for technology, a lot of passion for programming, right? But I didn't know that then when I started university, right? So I think someone has to give themselves the chance to grow and to learn. and it's never too late. Like I started my career effectively where my peers were like 3 to 5 years younger than me, and they were already maybe earning more money, but also already focusing on technology, software development, data science, right? But it's never too late. You can find your path, and you can be successful. Uh, I mean, ultimately, everyone is starting from different conditions, right? I was born in Italy instead of being born maybe in San Francisco in the States. If I was born in San Francisco in the States, my life would have been completely different, right? But we have to deal with the cards that we are given, and so I think allowing ourselves to learn who we are, learn what we enjoy, it's critical for success. And by learn what we enjoy, I don't mean that we should love our job. Like I personally don't think that if you don't find the like, it's kind of a utopic idea that you should love your job, otherwise you cannot do like, yes, you can enjoy the job, but it's a job. uh,
Yeah,
and there are multiple reasons why you can focus on doing your job correctly and doing a good job, right? One, first of all, is money. Everyone needs money, so the better you become, the better is for you ultimately. And then over time, you actually can understand what you're good at. And if you're good at something, eventually you're going to enjoy doing this, right? Because it's reinforced learning. uh, you do something well, you get rewarded, and so what you are doing get back to you, and you enjoy doing it more. This doesn't necessarily mean that you have to love your job when you start. um, and this is actually how I evolved in my career. I thought uh, I want to understand data and report to the business, because that's very similar to writing a university paper, right? You do some experiment and then you write a paper, and this is similar to a data analyst job. But then I discovered, okay, it's too repetitive for me. I've learned much of what you do in this job. I want to move on. And so it's a trial and error. It's always a discovery process. And I think if you want to do uh, if you want to try yourself in a technical career, you also have to enjoy this discovery process, this trial and error. The very lowest level that you can go is like, what are the daily tasks that you do uh, as a data analyst, data scientist, software engineer, data engineer? You write code. Writing code is writing something, try it out, it breaks, you fix it, and now you progress. So this is the loop. There is a constant loop in a technical role.
yeah,
Eventually, you get better, so the number of breaking points are reduced, but you're always constantly trying to improve, trying to fix stuff. And this is also why I love the job that I do, because it's ever evolving.
very interesting. Yeah, I was thinking, what is the soft skill and meta level skill involved in that? I mean, maybe
Mhm.
for some of the like more junior people, that's the challenge. Maybe money comes first. Maybe sometimes money governs them in terms of the decision they make. Maybe they are in a company which allowed them the opportunity to learn and experience different things, etc. But because of the money, they think like, okay, it's not a good company. I should leave, go somewhere else. Making the best decision there is the key. I mean, I remember once I've joined the company, and that was roughly a month, and I wanted to leave that company. And
Mm.
for a while, I was thinking, is it a good idea? Let me talk to one of my friends, my actually old friends doing the PhD together. And I rang him and I talked to him and I said, I Reza, how long have you been in this job? And I said, this is 1 month. And he said, that's too short, man. Give it a year. Give it a year to see how it works and what is the output. Because in 1 month, you cannot do anything. And I gave 1 year to that job and I stayed 4 years there. So if I wanted to leave, so that this is definitely this is the soft skill and meta level skills to understand what is the best decision. Maybe the mental models are involved. I mean, what are the factors you decide based on? Yeah. So what do you think? So how maybe mostly younger people, more junior people, how they should uh, what are the things they should improve in to be able to make better decisions, to kind of generate better result in 5 years?
Mm. So this is a really interesting point, and I have a really strong opinion. I'm probably not I definitely not a political correct person. Like I have a really strong and blunt opinion. So let's hope that no one that knows me in the like in the companies that I work for uh, watch this too closely. But anyway, um, so I think we have to distinguish two streams here. One is how you grow as a professional, and this will eventually lead you to get more out of your profession. And the other one is how do you make good decisions in terms of companies, switching companies, and getting money. Starting from the first one, I'll cite in a very lousy way something that a mentor of mine once told me. Ultimately, the career path and your professional growth is your job, right? It's your job, but it's also your responsibility. Meaning that if you want to evolve, you shouldn't wait anyone else, and for sure not the company that you're working for that to get the opportunities that you want. Uh, Case in point, for me, it was really gruesome to get my first role as a insight analyst, even if I come from a science background, because the first year and a half of the technical job that I had, I was doing project management and technical support. So it was completely out of my potential, right? And so I spent that year and a half waking up at 5 a.m. in the morning and studying using platforms like DataCamp and so on to study the gap that I had. And so this is what you need. It's your own drive. You shouldn't expect the company that you're working for or your manager to give you opportunities to grow and give you opportunities to learn. Yes, maybe you'll find a good company, maybe you'll find a good manager that gives you this opportunity, and you should always have hope for this because it's easier, right? But that's not the path that you should follow. You should put yourself outside your comfort zone. This is how you grow. And this is on you. This is your job and your responsibility. You shouldn't ask for it someone else. So this is the first thing. Second thing
A,
is
a one
company.
million dollar a $1 million point you
Yeah,
made. Thank you very much. Okay. What is the
yeah.
second?
Second point is how to make good choices in terms of company, career progression, and money. Uh, I have this opinion that the most important thing that we have and the most valuable thing that we have is our time. So as soon as you realize that you are not fairly compensated, you should move on. Um and there are studies that show that people that stay more than 1.5, 2 years in the same company without getting a substantial raise, ultimately at the end of their career, they are earning way less of their peers. So this is a fact. And unfortunately, and this is a problem of the job market, and in the past years with these economic downturns and instability, it's even more exacerbated this situation. But generally, if you stay within the same company, the salary raise that you should expect and you can expect are most likely below the current rate of inflation, right? So the current rate of inflation in the past 2 years goes between 2 and 8%, even more, depending. Like in Europe, we had 8% for 1 year almost. And the raises of the company that you were getting were between 3%, 5%. So
Yeah.
you're effectively losing money while staying within the same company. So my personal opinion and something that I apply is you should look for a company first where you feel comfortable and you feel safe. because the first and most important thing is, are you able to express yourself? If there's something that is not going right, are you able to discuss this with your peers, with your manager, without retaliation? Because if the environment is not safe, this is not a good company, probably. Second point is, are you fairly compensated? If not, get the chance to explore the opportunity for 1 year, 1 year and a half, but then don't be afraid to move on. Always look for new opportunities, even if you are okay with the current opportunity, because you never know. Like, you should always have the door open. You should be always ready to jump into a new challenge. At least that's how I see my professional career. Um, I don't want to stagnate. And in this very moment, in the moment that we are all living in, with this rapid expansion of AI, it is extremely important that we are always ready to get new challenges, and we are always ready to get outside our comfort zone, because the work that we are doing today most likely won't be the same that we're doing in 5 years, and maybe won't exist in 10 years. So we should get as much as possible as um, until we have the chance, I guess.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting
Yeah.
points. And the point is, yeah, according to one of my guests in my other podcast, he was actually explaining a conversation he has had with one of the colleagues in one of the workplace he has worked, and he was saying he used to nag all the time, saying, "Oh, they don't put value on me, they don't care about my expertise, they don't pay me enough, etc." And he said, one day I got furious and I said, "Come on, if you can go, go today. If you can't, shut up and continue working." So that's really important. I think a lot of people feel like they've experienced plateau, they feel like they are not here, they are not valued, and so on and so forth. At the same time, they feel like it is scary to move on.
Mm,
So one point that I found in the part that you were explaining was 1.5 year thing I heard. That means you should be patient. You should look at that strategically. You should plan for it. You should see where is your gap. You should improve yourself. You shouldn't be scared of applying. Sometimes people are scared of applying. So they say, I applied five, nothing, no answer, no reply from any of them. So a friend of mine who had a job in Germany was saying, "Do you believe me? I've applied 500 different jobs until I got it." So it could be more efficient, of course, but I think the point is here, people are scared. People are scared of moving.
mm.
Is it?
Well, I'm scared as well. Like every time, because every time that you start a new in a new company or in a new project, there are, at least for me, there are a bunch of things that come to play. First of all, I'm getting better at it, but I always have the imposter syndrome.
Uh-huh.
So this means that every time I get into a new project with new people, I always have to try and cut down and make sure that I tell myself, you're here because, I mean, you got the experience, you can do it, right? So this is something that always happen and happens to me as well and continues to happen. The second thing is, of course, it's scary because you you pass from a situation or an environment where you already know the processes, you already know the people, maybe you have already set up some good relationship, so there is a buffer there. And the
Mhm.
buffer means that it's okay if you're not perfect one day or if you make a mistake. People know you. Maybe you've been good all the time, so you're allowed to make mistakes. But in a new environment, in a new company, you have to start from zero, right? You have to start forming relationship. You have to start proving yourself. So it is scary. But the other, like, not doing that has only drawbacks, and the drawbacks are not growing professionally, not growing economically, and not advancing in your career. So ultimately, we have to balance out uh, what makes our life easier and happier. Um, and of course, if like, sure, there are people that are fine with the job that they have, and they would rather prefer to stay in a situation that is comfortable. Comfortable doesn't mean that they maybe they don't get challenged, but the environment is very welcoming. They enjoy the environment, they enjoy the work, and they are okay staying in their position in the company they are at, and that's totally fine. But based on the initial statement that we asked ourselves, how can we grow? In my experience, you grow only when you put yourself in new
Mm,
challenges.
challenges. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So I want I can continue this conversation on this
Oh,
specific part for hours and hours because there are a
yeah.
lot of things to touch
Mm.
and discuss. Maybe while maybe some of the skills that will help us a lot, we can discuss at some stage the layoffs, etc. Also, which I don't want necessarily to touch that now, but there are skills that definitely we need to get better in. For example, maybe. Uh, it is so popular saying resilience perhaps is going to help, but I don't know, maybe anti-fragility is a better version instead of
Mhm.
being someone you can afford the pressure and being stuck in plateau and not getting enough money you want. But what you are talking to me, what you are saying looks like to me it is more anti-fragility. I mean, while you are in the pressure, try to grow instead of try to afford it. Maybe that's the solution at the end of, maybe it takes time. Maybe for someone immediately leave this company and join another one. You remember the company that we were working together. I
Yes.
left on Monday and I started on Tuesday. It was kind of a miracle, kind of. But how do you think about that? Do you think is it what you are saying?
Yes. So I had a similar discussion yesterday with a family member, and essentially what I told them is getting anti-fragile, as you described, or getting more resilient, ultimately is like everything else that we have to do, right? I find this parallelism with going to the gym. Why do we go to the gym? To get fitter, of course, to get healthier, but also to grow muscle. And the same thing applies to uh, our professional skills,
Career and life,
right?
yeah.
You grow, and you cannot grow if you don't consciously put yourself in the situation that allow you to grow. And resilience, anti-fragility, is the same. It's something that you can train by putting yourself more and more in the situation where maybe you don't know how to deal with this specific deliverable. Maybe you have a timeline that is very tight and you have never accomplished something in this shorter amount of time. Maybe you have a coworker that is particularly difficult to deal with. Everything that can put you outside your comfort zone, I think we should seek for those things rather than be afraid of those things. Of course, at the beginning of our career, it's much easier to get more afraid. But as you grow and as you evolve, it kind of switch at some point. I still get very frightened and sometimes very anxious when I take new challenges. Uh, but now it's kind of I'm starting to learn. Okay, I'm realizing that this emotion of anxiety is coming up, and I'm able to bubble it down again, right? While before maybe I was getting very frustrated and actually getting myself taken over by anxiety, right? So it's something that we have to consciously deal with, and it's like everything is like in life. It's something that we can train. We can grow this muscle uh, to make ourselves more resilient, more anti-fragile, not only to our professional career in everything. Like life
Yeah.
is really good at throwing us punches, right? So
Always.
that's
Yeah.
uh, that's the constant.
Yeah, yeah. So, for a little bit of context, the anti-fragile idea is something Nassim Taleb actually has introduced in his book,
Mm.
which is a very famous book. And if you can see in the picture, in comparison between resilient, fragile is someone with the pressure breaks actually, okay. And then resilient is someone afford the things, but it is really hot and it is really sweating and it is really I'm always angry because I'm under pressure, etc. But we see people who are under pressure but they are growing in pressure instead of suffering in pressure. That's very interesting topic. So I recommend reading the book people, if you have not read the book. That's really
I
interesting
know
one.
the author, but I didn't.
Yeah.
I think I read the Black Swan one
Yeah, he
from
has a
him.
lot of, he has
Yeah.
several interesting books. Good. Let's finish the freelancing one and then I will have some other questions from you. So far, so good. I really enjoyed conversating with you. I hope the audience of the episode also have enjoyed the talk. If you have enjoyed, please do like the episode, make comment and share the podcast, subscribe, because if you feel like that's something others would be interesting for them to watch and listen. Google unfortunately doesn't have that much intelligence. It looks only at the number of the numbers, shares, comments, and so on and so forth. Okay, so why you jumped into freelancing? So if it seems like if you tell people, come on, you can make like 700 euro, 600 euro per day, and then if you work like 10 days, it is more than the 30 days of the work you are doing in a company. But how many percent of the data scientists and AI professionals they would like to jump into freelancing? That's like a lot of insecurity. How did you decide to go to freelancing, and what does it look like?
Yeah, it was a tough decision because, of course, I guess as you grow older, you get more responsibilities from life, right? So,
Yeah,
uh, in a way, it's easier to jump into freelancing when you are younger because you can risk more, right? You can risk to not get a job or not get paid for a number of months. Maybe you have your family you can
yeah,
go back to, right? And so it was definitely tough because I actually moved into freelancing very recently. But the reason for me to finally take the leap was because I've always wanted to build something for myself, uh, either a business or, in this case, kind of freelancing gives you a segue into building your brand, your branding as a professional, right? So you are kind of building something for yourself, and this shifted also the frame uh, that I apply now to all the projects that I can follow. Because now, even if I'm doing the same job that I was doing as a full time employee, now the output of my work comes back to me directly. Like if I
uh-huh.
do a good job, it means that my brand is growing, and so
It's not
more
for the company.
opportunities are
Yeah, it's
coming.
not for the
Right?
company. Yeah,
Exactly, exactly. So this was my thought process, and also for someone like me that is always impatient. I'm very impatient, very curious. I cannot get settled. Having the opportunities to explore multiple projects, get engaged by multiple clients is uh, it's very rewarding in a way. Like I can explore multiple projects, multiple technologies, multiple business verticals. So I have the chance to get hopefully different opportunities. Uh, but of course, there is always the the other side of the medal, which is if you start when you are very young, it's much harder to get your first client, right?
uh-huh.
Because maybe you're starting with not much experience. You have to get yourself known. So in my case, it was a little bit easier to start because I had many years already of experience. Um, and it's not gold raining down, to be honest. I'm
Yeah,
working much more hours than I was working with a full-time job. Um, but I'm never bored now.
Uh-huh.
When I had the full-time job, I had much more time. But actually, interestingly enough, when I had free time, I couldn't focus on things that I knew would get me better. Like I have I have a blog, but when I had time, when I was a full-time employee, I didn't focus on writing. Instead, now, since like it's completely shifted because now every hour counts. And so I get much more focus and actually much more selective in how I spend my time. But yeah, so I wouldn't recommend anyone to go into freelancing if they don't have the. I kind of think you need to have some sort of drive to first
Uh-huh.
of all be okay with ambiguity, right? You never know if like next month you are out of a project or a job, and so you have to plan also financially. You need to have some planning. Like for instance, in my case, uh, I'm really frugal. Like most of the things that I earn are saved. So this gives me uh, relaxation and knowing that okay, if something goes wrong, at least I have a few months of buffer that I can find another gig. Uh, so it's a different approach of working, and again, I think it goes back to character. Um, some people, even people that I know personally, one they don't have interest in having such an adventure, and secondly they don't like this ambiguity, this constant stress, these overworking hours, because you don't have hours anymore, you don't have holidays anymore. So there is a trade-off that you have to balance out, and yes, you can earn much more money, but you definitely work more as well. So
Very interesting. Thank you very much for transparently sharing the tips and tricks there. So what I learned from what you said is personality is involved. Definitely, that's up to. I can see still the same definition of freelancing for content creators, for marketers, for website developers, etc. applies here. That's very interesting. And also, you explained there are some other components also involved in freelancing. So, like the emergency fund is one thing you need
yeah.
definitely to save for it. Very interesting. So, another question is how normally, as a data and AI professional, you get the customers, they get the projects. I mean, it seems a little bit different.
Yes, so far I was lucky because everything came naturally. Like I didn't do any reach out right now. So it's not that I started doing cold calling or sending messages to people. Uh, Luckily for our career, there is a lot of interest in the market. So if you get some experience and if you're like if you have done some project already, likely you have the chance to get contacts already. And one thing that I'm not doing, but it's common in freelancing, is getting the support of networks. These are generally organizations that essentially become the middleman between professionals and companies that are looking for specific skill set. And so one thing that at the moment I'm not doing, but a good friend of mine are doing, is getting a few projects within these professional networks. And then it just take one. So it takes just one project, one client, and then you can start moving outside the network, start building your own network. And of course it's better this way because then you have the direct relationship maybe with the I don't know, the head of data, the head of engineering of a company, and then they can put you in contact with someone else. So it starts ball rolling as soon as you get the first client, but the first client is always uh, the most difficult one, I guess. In
Yeah,
my case, it was kind of streamlined, but I wouldn't say that I had uh, a normal way of shifting between full-time employment and freelancing. It just happened, and I took the chance.
yeah. Is the network you are talking about a paid service or something that people
No,
can
they
join?
they generally they generally have so it's kind of interview process. They are kind of, sometimes they are headhunters that they got uh, the mandate to find professionals. But generally, even the networks, both headhunters and networks, they get a cut uh, of the contract that is signed. So you don't pay anything to them. They get paid if they find a professional and they are able to pair the right professional to the right company or the right project, and they get a cut of the negotiation essentially.
What is that? What is that? I mean, if you are a freelancer, is it the kind of that network you are talking about is a company? For example, if myself, for example, I want to join as a freelancer, I join that company or reach out to that company and say I'm looking for project or something.
Yeah, both. So you can reach out, but then oftentimes they reach to you uh, if they notice your profile on LinkedIn, for example. And yes, they are in fact companies. So I call
Uh-huh.
them network because
Uh,
their role is to create a
find
network of
talents.
professionals. Yeah, exactly, and then connect the dots, and they have clients on the other side that they reach out to, and the clients say, okay, I want to start a data engineering project. Find me a data engineer that has this amount of experience, is proficient with this technology, and so they are HR companies with a network of professionals that they can always contact. And of course, if you start with them, uh, if you perform well, then you can always rely on them to pass you new opportunities. And it's always good to have these fail safe networks, right? Because then maybe if sometimes you find out yourself out of a job, they
Yeah.
generally have a number of projects over the course of the year, right?
Mm.
Um, but in my case, I started already out of my own, and so I'm not planning to join any network anytime soon, especially because their interviewing process, and it's kind of convoluted. I
Yeah,
don't personally like it.
I understand. Interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
so looking at your career, you did your PhD in chemistry. What
Yes.
you would you like to tell us how why you decided to come to data science world and how what was the experience? Because a lot of people nowadays, because the job market is better here, they are doing this transition and they are facing a lot of challenges. So why you did that and what was the most important and most difficult challenge for you?
So the PhD was in chemistry, but it's an artifact because I'm a chemist by trade. So
Uh-huh.
the university didn't have a biochemist PhD degree, so they gave me a chemistry degree. But still,
Yeah.
I did a lot of biophysics and physical chemistry, so it's not too far from the reality.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I decided to move away from academia, not knowing what I was going to do, right?
Uh-huh.
But I knew at that time that I didn't really like uh, So essentially, if you want to stay in academia, I started my PhD with the willingness to become a university professor. But then I realized that in order to do that, you have to spend numerous amount of years in the academic field, continuously publishing, but most importantly and most likely, moving from one university contract to the other every 1 or 2 years, right? And in my field, especially, which is a very competitive field, not because it's particularly complex, but because there are a lot of people doing base science within biochemistry. It's really, really hard to get to the point where you have an opening for a tenure professorship, which is the closest thing to have a stable job in academia before you finally get to the professorship. So essentially, you have to be okay spending an X amount of years, not knowing how many, moving from one university to the other. It means also from one continent to the other potentially, right? Because maybe you find an opportunity in the States and then you have to go back to Sweden and then go back to France. I don't know.
Yeah,
Everything can happen, right? And if you want to really pursue professorship, you need to pursue every opportunity that is worthwhile. So if you're called in Japan, you have to go to Japan, right? So I wasn't really okay with that. And also, all these years that you spend going around, you don't really get to save money because the contracts paid are. I mean, you get more tenure and you get a little bit more money, but definitely we are not talking the same money that people in tech nowadays can get, right? So if and when you get to a professorship, then you start earning really good money, and your life can become stable. But until then, you have to be okay with the insecurity and uncertainty. And so I decided that I wanted something more stable and more efficient, because ultimately I wanted to build a house, a family, and actually be okay traveling on my
mhm,
own rather than for conferences. But I enjoyed a lot the PhD time. Like, all the university experience for me was critical, and ultimately, like, if I am who I am today, it's also because of the experiences that I had in the
academia.
PhD. Yeah,
Yeah, very
in
interesting.
academia. But
Very
the
interesting.
why, like, what was the critical challenge when I decided to switch and enter tech, and especially when I wanted to go into data, it was to make others realize that most of the skills that I acquired during my academic years were completely transferable into a data job. Like, the only gap that I had was a technical gap, like a SQL or Python. But there is a misconception that SQL or Python are the end goal, which is completely wrong. Like, SQL, Python, AI, everything is a tool. So the tool, you can learn how to use it, right? But how you use the tool should be much more important than the tool itself. And I already had the mindset to be able to use that tool. I just lacked uh, the language, right? So I was already able to speak, but I was missing the specific language. If we want to make a comparison, I know how to speak Italian, so theoretically I know how to speak all the Romance languages, but maybe I'm not fluent in in French, but I can quickly learn, right? And so that's the most frustrating challenge that I faced, making the job market realize that what you learn in the university, uh, with some degree, can be transferred directly into a technical profession. And it's not necessarily coming from hard science, right? Even philosophy, like, when you study philosophy, you have to reason and you have to possess an analytical mindset. um, Even if you are studying to become a doctor, uh, you need to have an inquisitive mindset, an investigative mindset, and this is definitely useful in a data job as well.
Interesting. Very interesting points. It is getting more popular nowadays. I mean, nowadays you can see a lot of people from science, from medical, and like medicine and so on and so forth, social science also. So we have been collaborating in a program which is called Human-Centered AI Masters. So that's a master degree around human-centered topics. So we were supervising some of the students there. I used to see a lot of people coming to Master of AI from
Mhm.
something social science, which is more weird than coming from science, because science at the end of the day they are familiar with mathematics and so on and so forth. Okay, then afterward you joined, I think Stripe, the company was a
Yep.
kind of corporate. So if you want to compare, what was the good things and bad things about corporate? I mean, did you enjoy working there at all? And why you decided to move on again?
Well, the I was extremely lucky to join Stripe because yes, it is today a huge company. But when I joined, was very much uh, going from startup to massive, and so I joined in a. I think it's one of. I got my lucky ticket because it was one of in a lifetime opportunity to see like a company evolving so rapidly, both in terms of culture, but also in terms of how you perform your job, right? For instance, something that was completely okay at Stripe, but I actually never found in any other company afterwards was that everyone had access to the data. So even in my case, I joined not as a technical person, but they gave me SQL and they told me you can do whatever you want with it, right? So Stripe was
Oh,
kind of an impressive experience for me, and it was I got extremely lucky. Like I wasn't searching for it; I didn't know they existed, and so as always happened in life, it was my lucky star that allowed me to enter there. And not only the job, like, but also the people that I met were incredibly inspiring. Like you could have conversation outside the job that you were doing. You could dream together of what you were going to do in 10 years. And also many of the managers that I had at Stripe kind of set the bar really high for what a good manager and a good leader should look like. So after that was really, really hard to, it wasn't hard, but I was able to spot quite quickly if someone was a good manager, a good leader,
wow,
or not.
very interesting.
So it was, I got extremely lucky that this was my first job. On the other hand, maybe if I was already an experienced professional, I could have joined as a higher level in the company. But I mean, you cannot go back and you cannot think
Yeah,
backwards, right? You can always move
yeah,
forward.
exactly. We are competing with ourselves. So
Exactly.
whatever
Yes.
situation we are. Very interesting. Very interesting. So what are the most interesting soft or meta level skills you noticed in Stripe that some of the people they own, some of the people they lack, or yourself they learned, you find yourself you don't have?
For sure is owning what you do, right? Which means also making sure that if you fuck up, uh, you say, okay, I made a mistake. How can I solve it, right?
Uh-huh.
And also, I think I personally found myself very uh, okay with the culture there because uh, they always reason. Uh, they used to say starting from first principle, so reason with like in a very scientific approach, but they also favor execution, right? It means that if you stay in your mind thinking about the perfect solution for a problem, most likely you either you're not gonna ever solve the problem because you're always finding more solution, better solution, or more problems to tackle before you actually start implementing, or when you think that you have the perfect solution, you start implementing and then something goes wrong.
Mm.
So it's much better to lean over execution, start to move forward the bar, and then as you progress, you will find for sure challenges. You'll find for sure things that you never thought would have been that way. You will find new opportunities, but this is totally fine. This is actually how you progress. You have to start somewhere, and then you steer course. And so these are the characteristics that I brought with myself, leaning towards execution and also owning what you do, right? Um, and I think this is very valuable everywhere. Like if you present yourself as an owner, even if you're not the owner of the company, but if you own what you do, it means that you are comfortable speaking up and honing the results and the mistakes. And in turn, I think this builds trust, right? Ultimately, what I said at the beginning, people buy people. And the currency of trade between people is trust. If I trust you, I'm more willing to offer you a job. I'm more willing to give you a chance. I'm more willing to let it slide if for some day you got sick and you made a silly mistake, right? So ultimately, the currency that we have to spend between each other is trust. And so if you're able to build trust over your career, the opportunities will come.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, then you decided to move to startup world, I guess, isn't it? So how that do after Stripe, after you left the Stripe, I think you went to startup.
Yeah.
How that one look like? I mean, what did you learn from then? How you can compare it? I mean, I know what is a startup. That's the startup we were working together there. That was a smaller startup. So
Yeah.
how's the idea of working in a very small startup in the early days and in terms of softer skills also?
I would say I wasn't ready. My soft skills weren't ready to deal with those challenges because you need to you need to work at a very different level. Like in a bigger organization, you might have different many layers of buffer between you and who's making a decision. While in a smaller startup, most likely you are communicating directly with one of the owner, right? So you need to be extremely careful how you weight the words and how you expose yourself and you communicate with the others. And so, not talking about the complexity of the job and the processes, because of course I came into a startup with the consciousness that they were not gonna be uh, super clean in the business processes. Uh, my job was probably going to be all over the place, right? But uh, definitely, I wasn't ready in sense of communicating and managing stakeholders, which is an incredibly important skills to have, especially if you want to work in the data field and critically if you want to work in the analytics field. So if we split the data field into analytics and then kind of more engineering software, in analytics most likely you are facing constantly either with clients or with internal stakeholders. And so there part of your job to be able to explain, manage their expectations, and so this was a crucial moment in my career because I wasn't ready at that point in time. But after that, I learned a bit more how to manage expectations, how to manage internal stakeholders, even when they were very, very senior, right? So is something that you learn as you progress. Generally speaking, if I look back on my career, I wasn't the person who learned in a positive way throughout their his experiences. I'm not saying that I had bad experiences, but
Yeah.
uh, generally, I think that I learned through challenges, right? So, and I think that's fine. It's
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
cannot define our path before walking it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, of course, there are opportunity for learning. What doesn't kill you definitely make you
makes you
stronger.
stronger. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, and that's, for example, for me when I joined them, one of the questions they asked me, the founders of a startup, they asked me, I joined as the head of AI and computer vision, and they asked me, are you okay to join from Intel to join a startup which has only five employees, etc. And it was like to me, well, there should be no difference, but it was a lot of differences. So maybe for the people who want to make that decision, that would be really important to try to understand what does it look like. Nowadays, with like tools like LLM tools like ChatGPT, it is much easier to mock what is the environment you are joining. But at that time, I remember quickly after I exited that startup, and that's a very funny story the way I exited. Maybe we were working together, but I never told you what is the story. I can
No, no.
elaborate it quickly here. But quickly after I exited, someone on LinkedIn reached out to me and said, I'm joining this startup. What do you think about it? What is your advice? Anyway, I said I cannot write for you. If you want, we can have a vocal call on
Yeah,
WhatsApp or something. I don't know what decision she made, but that's a good advice that I didn't do. Trying to talk to someone who previously worked there, but I didn't do that, and I said, okay. By the way, when they reached out to me, it wasn't like I exited Intel and looking for a job. I was in Intel and they talked to me and offered me, and because of that I said, okay, I'm bored a little bit in Intel, so let's go to a startup and come back to startup world. But the reason for me to leave was really interesting and funny. We used to have a sprint planning every second week. Yeah, as you remember, and then in one of the meeting I said, come on, with the budget and size of the startup you have, it seems like the technology is too early for you and it's not going to like your competitors that are spending 4 years with a team of like 20 people to make something. You want to do if you want to do something quickly with a small number of people, it's not. It's better to forget about it. And in in the afternoon, we terminated the contract because, and then after like 5 years, for 5 years of that time, still they didn't come back to that technology. That means what I told them was correct, and I'm happy that. So I lost the job, kind of myself cause losing the job, but I'm happy that I told something. Still, I can defend it. Anyway, yeah, you learn it, but maybe the lesson learned here is try to mock it up, try to talk to some people, try to understand what is the environment you're going in. Because at the end of the day, entering, as you say, going to a new job, to a new company is difficult. Exiting from the company also is difficult, and there are a lot of friction and so on and so. We didn't experience that much friction, but that's the case. Good. And then afterward, you moved from Ireland to Italy. So my question here is mostly about change your location. I mean, as a professional, how it is important. Is it kind of something you can leverage to make the life easier for yourself, make the career push the career moving forward? If
yeah,
you want to talk about it,
yeah. It wasn't really a good career move, to be honest, because in Italy the job market
yeah,
is worse. So I was definitely not looking for money,
yeah.
but I mean, of
That's
course,
the
in
point.
life,
That's the point. Sometimes money is not the drive. For other
absolutely,
reasons, you need. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, don't get me wrong. I do appreciate uh, the reward, uh, but in
yeah,
that specific case, uh, like the move was because I was 8 years out of my country, uh, because I started the PhD in Ireland, then I found a job in Ireland, and after 8 years, I decided that Ireland was enough. So I wanted to go back to Italy to be closer to my family, but it wasn't a good decision in terms of job opportunities, because in Italy, unfortunately, the companies are not really forward looking, and this means also that the job market uh, is less rapid than the one that we had in Ireland, and also the salaries are uh, absolutely, the salaries are a joke in Italy, to be honest. But I was lucky because I came with international experience, and I, I came back during COVID.
Oh,
So during COVID, it was already 1 year, 1 year and a half that companies started to go remote. And so I could leverage that. And I did leverage that. Actually, since then, I never worked uh, not remote ever again. So
oh,
I built my career as a remote professional. And being remote, it means, well, being remote, it means a couple of things. It means that most likely, if you enjoy working remotely, you can never go back to a normal 9 to 5 job. And this means also that you are reducing substantially the number of opportunities and the number of companies that you can work for. But at the same time, you can target companies that are not necessarily in your country.
mhm.
And most likely, these companies are the companies that you want to work for, especially if you believe that working remotely is a new way and a better way of thinking about your job and how you can distribute your workload across your personal life. Like years ago, I still believed that you should get a good work life balance. Nowadays, I don't believe anymore in the concept of work life balance. Let me explain a little bit more.
Yeah,
Um,
please.
I think that you should, I think that eventually you should be okay in blending your life and make it work with your job, right? Uh, life balance is something that you have to find inside yourself. Like case in point, right now I'm working much more hours than I was working as a full-time employee, but I'm still finding time to spend with my loved ones, right? And I still find time to uh, get relaxation. And it means that I shifted uh, how I look at the hours of the day and how I want to spend my time. Before, I had more time, but I spent that time watching Netflix. Now the I have less time, less free time. But when I have this free time, I spend time with my loved ones and doing things that actually enjoy. I enjoy, and so
Very,
yeah, that's
very, yeah, very interesting point you raised. When you feel happier, when you feel more connected to what you do, you will have more control on your time.
absolutely.
And when you don't, and that's the reason why people who are in like depression, they eat more, they sleep more, but as soon as they get happier, they can control their diet and so on and so forth. Very interesting. And I think that was some sort of the trigger for you to start the freelancing. You realized, oh my God, that's so interesting.
Yeah, but also it was one too many time that I was getting uh, time on my hand, but also getting bored of that time on my hand. And so when I got the opportunity to change completely my career path and do something that is definitely riskier, I said to myself, either I do it now, uh, that maybe I don't have yet kids, or maybe I won't do it ever again. Like there are times in life that, like it's true, trains are passing, and if you're not willing or ready to take the train, then you lose it forever, right? So I wanted to take the leap, and so far it's going well. And so far, I think like I could never go back to be fully employed, um, because it's a completely different mindset. It's yeah.
Yeah,
So it's true. It's sometimes it's true what they say that when you go out for yourself and on your own, it's really hard to go back into a normal job where you have to be managed and depend on the employer.
exactly. And that that's exactly the story. I mean, a lot of people they exit working for others and instead they start trying running a startup or business, being entrepreneur or be a freelancer, etc. Because at some stage you start feeling I'm really uh, disappointed about the opportunity. All of us, you have experienced that. Good. So, and how do you see the future? I mean, in 5 years, in 10 years, do you see like it would be you would run a company getting more projects, or you would like to do a startup or start because you are helping companies building prototype MVPs, product, etc. Maybe you would be you would have the idea of why not doing that for myself? What would be the future for you in 5 to 10 years?
Definitely, that's an opportunity that I'm exploring. But uh, yeah, potentially being uh, a driver of innovation. That's the main thing. Um, to be honest with you, it's many months, almost a year, that I'm starting to think that I should stop, get all the money that I have, and put this money into something that connect humans. Because in five to 10 years time, I'm not sure if the job that I'm doing is gonna be, for sure, it's not gonna be the same.
Yeah,
But I'm not sure if it's going to be completely automated. What I'm sure of is that in some sort of way or format, human interactions will always be needed. Like even as a luxury thing, uh, I don't think that you will never go back to a pub to enjoy social life. I don't think you'll never go back doing soccer with your friends on a weekly basis, right? So I think my plan for 5 to 10 years is get as much money as I can and then invest into uh, a business that interacts with people,
yeah. That's
because
very interesting.
that's a fail safe. Like if AI gets all of our technical job, what remains is either real estate, because everyone needs a house and a place to stay, or interactions like connecting humans.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's one of the topics I'm really obsessed with. And in the Persian podcast that I have, we have talked about a lot. And that's the topic of how to be retired quicker. I mean, hopefully in the recent generation, Generation Z, they have more ideas of how not to work for like 35 years and like just be retired at 60 something years old, etc. That's really interesting. I promised to Manfredi that I'm not going to go more than 1.5 hours. We are almost there. In my Persian podcast, easily we used to go beyond 3 hours, like a Lex Friedman version of Persian version of the podcast, which I really enjoyed that conversation. And surprisingly, my guests in that podcast in the beginning, they used to say, "Oh, I have only for 10 minutes to say." So what do you want to tell me in 1.5 or 2 hours? And then at the end of the episode, it is really difficult to finish it because still they have things to say. And that was the main reason I started that podcast. Anyway, so we are going to finish in a few minutes. Thank you very much, everybody who have joined us on this episode. This is the first episode of my new podcast, The Art of Beyond Algorithms, which is around data and AI, like practitioners, soft skill and meta level skills. I am talking to Dr. Manfredi Miraula. This time I was correct. And my friend, my old friend, and we have been colleague for a while. So I really enjoyed the conversation. To finish the
Likewise.
episode, thank you very much. And to finish the episode, I want to ask you a couple of questions and then we will be ready to finish the episode. As someone technical, can you tell me a couple of tools that has helped you a lot in terms of productivity? Not technical, like the soft skill and productivity. If you can tell me a couple of them, please.
Like it's ChatGPT, one of them. Yeah, I mean, past 2 years, it's incredibly, uh, it's crazy. It's a productivity booster that is almost, it's like having another you, another person that you can brainstorm ideas. You can start forming timelines. Like all these AI tools are incredibly powerful, and they are becoming more powerful by the day. So this one is astonishing. Like I'm surprised in a good way, but also in a scary way. And then one that I found recently is called I don't know if I mean it's a known app probably, but it's one of the many apps that you can find of merging calendars.
Uh-huh.
So for a couple of months now, I had multiple calendars in different places, and now finally I found one app that is able to merge multiple calendars into one. And now my life is 100 times better because I can see all the events in one unique calendar. So this is a tool that I recommend, especially if you have multiple uh, things across multiple email accounts.
Are you talking about Notion calendar?
No, it's called One Cal
One called, I think Notion has bought it, so it is called, no, if I'm not wrong. Anyway, yeah.
and
Or
Notion,
me-
Notion as well. But with Notion, I have this love and hate type of relationship that I look at there are a couple of YouTubers that are super they are built their community around building templates for Notion, and they have these super incredibly powerful things called second brains and all these ways and methods to streamline your productivity, etc.
yeah,
I start with these type of methods and frameworks for 1 or 2 weeks, and then I stop. And
yeah,
I always go back to pen and paper. Ultimately, that's my killer application.
yeah. Interesting. So if I share my screen to show what is there for the audience, if they're interested to follow, this is the one cal
Yeah.
you are talking about, I think. And there is another famous calendar that Notion recently has bought it,
Okay.
acquired it. I have recently installed and I'm using that, and that's very similar. Not only help you to merge several different calendars, but also it is smart in terms of auditing your time and so on and so forth, which is very
Huh.
interesting.
Is
Yeah.
it is it is it free tier for forever, or you have to buy into it?
No, it is free, but if you
Okay.
pay for the plans, actually you will get some more features, etc. AI definitely is involved in that, and particularly if someone is using Notion, there is a very good integration with the calendar and the Notion, which makes
Yeah,
it,
then I should try it because I
yeah.
definitely use Notion,
See?
and so
Yeah, see, this is the some sort of, yeah, I've heard about that a while ago, and I was recently started using that. That's very interesting. And the very final question, what is the, so as I said in my Persian podcast, I have a list of small questions I ask in the last half an hour of the discussion, but here I don't have it for now at least. But I want to ask one of the questions from that list, which is interesting, and then we will finish the episode. What is the thing recently your opinion has changed about? What is one thing recently your opinion has changed about?
that's an
Yes, my
interesting question
question, my
because
question makes makes people thinking, you know.
uh,
While Manfredi is thinking, let me tell it again. Please follow, subscribe the channel. Please like the episode, share it, ask others, your friends to watch it. I'm sure we are going to do a lot of episodes. We are going to learn a lot from the experience I have from my Persian podcast. It has helped personally myself hugely listening from several people and also the audience of the podcast. I hope we can do the same here. Yeah,
I have the
you.
answer.
Yes. I try to give you some time.
Thanks. I have been an avid reader and an avid believer in the FIRE movement, which is financial independence, retire early, right? So, in short, the concept is you earn as much as possible and then you retire very early, like 30, 35 years old. And then you apply some sort of very basic mathematic formula to live off of what you've earned. And since up to 1 year ago, I was a firm believer that I should pursue that. But then I realized, also maybe because of this change in my career now, that I'm actually, I feel much more driven. Uh, then I realized that it's probably not the right way. So now I'm more of a, I think more of maybe using the first part of the concept, so financial independence. So being financially independent, it means for me at least that you can afford to say no. So you take a project, there is someone who's pissing you off, you don't believe in the project, you don't believe in the culture, you can say okay, goodbye. So the financial independence part, it's something that I'm still pursuing, uh, but I don't have the expectation anymore to just retire next year, for example. Also because I recently heard someone, I don't remember who was the speaker, but they were discussing about this fire movement, and they said, okay, but if you retire, uh, let's say that you were able to make 2 million bucks and you retire, it means that maybe you can live okay for X number of years, but it also means that it's a very selfish accomplishment. Because let's say that you have a family, let's say that you have kids, it means that you are not planning to leave them anything, right? So you're not building for the future of your generation. And this got me thinking, okay, I want hopefully to have a family and grow a family, hopefully have kids. And I definitely want to leave them in a better position than I was when I was born, right? And so I now see fire as a very selfish movement, to be honest.
So
Unless
far,
you can make 10 million bucks, and then even your kids and maybe your nephew are fine.
yeah. Yeah, the problem is when you earn more, your expectation are increased, you
That's
expend
another
more.
problem. That
Yeah,
you
never.
should be very frugal. If
Yeah,
you believe in the fire movement, they also believe that everything that you earn, like you should never increase your lifestyle,
yeah,
right?
which is difficult. Which is
It
difficult.
is. It is in
Yeah,
some sort of way. It is.
yeah. But anyway, I'm so proud of you. So nice person, taking care of
Thank you.
the
Thank you
kids
for
and
inviting me.
the next generation. Great, good. Okay, so we are there. We are almost finishing the first episode, so that's
At
my
time.
culture. I put myself in front of. To be honest, yesterday morning I wake up with headache. Today also I woke up with headache because of a little bit of cortisol level and stress and so on and so forth, which is fine because I wanted to start it, and I'm so happy of starting that. And thank to you, Manfredi, for helping me to start that because it is much
Thank you
safer
very
to
much.
start with someone you know. Thank you very much. The last point before we finish the episode from you, please.
Last point.
Anything else left you want to say? Any advice or anything? Any
No,
quote?
just uh, I would say something that I said to the family member from yesterday. Just be okay exposing yourself to challenges. This It's okay to be afraid. It's okay to feel scared. But this is the only way that we can grow. and actually we can achieve something that is more that is expected, right?
Million
That's
dollar
it.
point. Yeah, $1 million point. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll finish the episode. Have a nice time. See you in next episode. Bye.
Ciao.
Bye.
Ciao, Liraz.
Ciao.